Welcome to My Therapist is Out, an open space therapy collective podcast. We are your hub for queer and trans mental health care. Each episode, we will speak with one of our therapists or collective members and chat about a mental health topic using a queer lens. And I am your host, Renae Johnson, licensed professional clinical counselor, art therapist, and founder of Open Space Therapy Collective. Today, we're chatting with Debbie Whyte. Debbie Whyte is an art therapist and has practiced in New York and California. Debbie specializes in working with teens and parents who want to support them. As we dive into today's topic, please keep in mind that this is a mental health podcast and we will talk about sensitive issues. If you would like to be informed of any trigger warnings, please read the podcast description. Hi, welcome to your therapist out, my therapist is out. Wrong thing. Try again. Okay. Hi, welcome to My Therapist is Out, an open space therapy collective podcast. I'm Renae, and today we have our therapist Debbie Whyte with us, and we are going to talk about when your identity is deemed unprofessional, how do you protect your mental health? This is going to be a heavy one.
Yeah, but you know how we do. All right,
so let's dive in. Let's maybe set the stage.
Okay.
What are some scenarios that marginalized people have been told, get told, that they're being unprofessional just because of their identity?
How we dress, how we wear our hair, if we choose to wear makeup or not. I once worked at a law firm before I became a therapist, way back when, early 20s, even though that was yesterday, where I was told that we had to wear skirts at law firms. All the secretaries had to wear a skirt. It'd be like 15 degrees in New York City. They still expected us to wear a skirt. So I used to wear sweatpants and then just pull them up and have this skirt that I was at my desk that was a dummy skirt. Didn't matter if I matched or not, but I was not going to come to work and call. So I always found it interesting because that was just so blatant. And of course, this is before sexual harassment and any kind of protection in the workforce for patriotic BS like that. But yeah, how we dress, especially if you identify as a woman or you sex assigned as a woman, depending on where you work, because I don't see this with anyone who appears to be male, right? You never, other than have a shirt and tie, they're not told that they have to wear a jacket or anything like that. But they also deal with the hair thing too, right? We often hear military style haircuts, which means guys can't have their hair past just below their ear. Then with women, it has to be European acceptable. So a lot of black women tend to relax their hair because a lot of workforces didn't allow you to wear cornrows or have locks or wear an afro. But then there are some corporations where I used to have locks and it was seen as acceptable, but a black male, was told in the marketing department he had to cut his locks. So it's kind of like they pit you against each other too. It's just really random. And it all depends, I feel, on who your supervisor is, what corporation you end up working at, or the place that you decide to work at. There's some places that don't allow tattoos. They don't allow more than one piercings. And different types of piercing they wouldn't accept. So it's like research that before you go to work there is what I always say.
There's also the trans and non-binary piece of this too, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're don't identify as the gender you're assigned at birth, or you're gender fluid, or whatever, and let's say you're an AFAB person and but are a mask person, identify as a mask person and show up in that way, that could be seemed inappropriate, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think Disney Corporation office in New York City, I was shocked. They actually say you have to wear your natural hair color. Like, you can come in there with red or pink hair or blue hair at all. It has to be the color that you were supposedly born with. And I was shocked for Disney, because I was like, wait a minute, this is Disney. But they literally had some very conservative dress codes. I don't know if it's changed. This was the late 80s, early 90s when I found this out. So clearly it was in the place that I wanted to work at. But yeah, that does pose an issue. Like, I know there's been cases of trans men and trans women have to go into HR to get permission to dress in the role that they identify in. And then they sometimes ask them for signage from a doctor, which to me is like personal. Why do I have to do that? Someone who's hetero doesn't have to go in and ask permission to how they want to dress. So yeah, there's still a lot of biases with that. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I worked at a hospital not too many years ago, and I had to have my natural hair color, and I had to cover all of my tattoos. And like, thankfully, most of mine are underclothes anyway. But like, I would have to go in with a bandage around my arm every day. And like, there's a reason your doctors look the way they do. That's not who they are. That's who they have to be when they go in, which just creates more of a disconnect between them and the people that they're sitting with.
Yeah, and especially as therapists, I always thought that was ridiculous. I worked at a inpatient psych as well, and they literally told me I had to cover this tattoo. And the days that I took a sock and cut the end off, someone gave me that idea. So I got to be stylish and fashionable with it, not look like I got a wound, right? So the days that I would forget to put the sock on were the days that the patients didn't even notice my tattoo. But the day I rolled in with the sock, what happened? Why you wearing that? And then one patient was like, well, I would want my therapist to represent who we are. I have tattoos. I want to know you have tattoos. And it was just like, they don't get it, that if you're in a service position and you're servicing others, they want to connect with you by how you look as well. They don't want a robot and some, can you imagine how uncomfortable? Like, I can't be my artsy self. Even as an art therapist, I still have to be like, okay, I got to cover that tattoo. I can't wear jewelry, like I got to make sure long sleeves. Don't forget, I used to wear leggings throughout the summer. Can't wear a skirt because I have a huge tattoo on my leg. Don't want to bring attention to that. And it's just like I wasn't myself. When I moved here to California from New York, that was one of the things I looked forward to, is working in a place where I could be a full art therapist and have colored hair and all that. And then I was shocked when I came to that place. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not there anymore. So,
and it's, when you like take it 2 steps out and look at it, a lot of these things that are deemed unprofessional are things that are natural to people's culture, whether that's Black people or Indigenous people or other BIPOC communities, or it's general queer representation in the way that people dress themselves.
Yeah, I believe is it the Samoans have like a tattoo on their face, or is it Polynesian? I'm not sure which community this is, but I know that there was a woman that was discriminated because she had a visible tattoo on her face that was to her culture, and she was told to cover it up with makeup.
Wow.
And it was a spiritual thing. And I was just like, I've never seen someone who identifies as Hasidic be told that they have to cut their hair because that hair that they wear on the side is representative to their culture and their religion. It's just, braids have always been part of a Black culture. The history behind Black women in particular wearing braids it dates even far back as slavery, even before then, where if you're traveling, they would braid in rice grains in your hair so that you had food. It's a way of carrying, you have like a way to nourish yourself as you're traveling. It's a survival thing. It's a protective, and it's also geared to spiritual connections. So a lot of our hairstyles has meaning. And so that brings me to this little PSA. Never touch a black woman's hair. Ask permission first. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, I hope people know that by now. And it's amazing that they don't.
People still want to touch my hair. They're fascinated with my curls. I've often gotten, is that all yours? Yeah, it's mine. Well, how come it's curly really short one day, but then it's straight? And because I combed it out or I let the curls, it's kind of like, I get the fascination. That's just my hair. Right. Anyway, I digress. Back to working in a professional setting, I feel like it's mainly what is deemed professional versus what's not professional is based on whose business it is. That's really what it comes down to it. Because the person who owns the business sets up their HR and they set the policies.
What about, and our amazing marketing communications coordinator brought this up earlier, but what about in schools too? Because, or in the residential programs with kids, like it shows up there a lot.
Yes, mainly in schools that the majority of the population is one versus the other. So when you have a few black kids in a predominantly white school, what they don't realize is they have what is called the like me syndrome. They can only identify with what they see in themselves. If you don't know about black hair or black culture, you cannot relate. It's hard for you to flex on that because it seems so foreign, because I don't understand, because as a white person, and I'm paraphrasing, as a white person, I only can wear my hair straight. My hair is not curly. I'd have to perm my hair to get it curly. How is it you can have your hair curly one moment, straight the next moment? It's like they don't understand the variety of styles that we can do. And so it's just easier to be like, oh, it's a distraction because my kids can't pay attention in school. When the reality is kids aren't interacting with one another like that. So I feel like a lot of adults put their ish on kids when it comes to dress codes in here. And then I'll also, on the flip side, let's forget about like just black kids with their hair versus white kids or other kids that don't have the same type of hair. The one other thing that they do is discriminate with girls wearing spaghetti strap tees or crop shirts. Like they sell them in the stores, especially for back to school. Trust the parents or dressing their kids according to how they like. But no, I've seen kids literally protest against the principals because they were told girls can't wear. They have a long list of things that the girls can't wear, but boys can wear whatever.
At a really young age too.
Yeah.
Very young age.
Very young age.
You can look on the internet right now, there are videos of parents being called for like their third or fourth grader having their shoulders exposed.
Yeah, I've experienced it. My son, who is in high school out here, actually joined in a protest with the girls because he's like, that's not fair. It's 90 degrees. You want them to wear a long sleeve shirt in 90-degree weather? It's ridiculous. And there's wearing spaghetti strap skirt. It's nothing wrong with it. They're covered. Like this whole concept of you can't wear certain clothing because I can control my eyes. I almost said it.
Aren't the ones being distracted. You
No.
know, like who's coming up with these rules? It's wild.
And it's sick.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
because it's the adults that parents are entrusting their kids with that are sexualizing the kids.
Yeah, and I often find, having had a kid in school out here and in New York, I often find that sometimes it's a small percentage of parents who feel this certain way and will pressure the principals, or they align with the thinking of the principal and they will back them. Because a principal or a school administration sometimes doesn't necessarily have the power to enforce this stuff unless they have some parents that are backing them. So it's like politics, and I just really get sick of it because it's like can the kids just go to school, learn and play and get along with one another? You adults need therapy.
Yes, they do.
And it's deep dive.
Yeah. And it shows too, like it was just prom season, and all of these queer kids weren't allowed to go to their own prom because they weren't wearing the like prom appropriate gendered thing.
And the graduation.
Yeah.
And then they go, well, we're not just telling queer kids they can't dress up for graduation how they want. We're telling straight kids they can't decorate their caps. They can't wear what they want. It's like their graduation. They have a cap and gown on. What do you care what's underneath? Like, seriously, I'm sorry. Back when I was going to school, kids used to they were so over and ready for graduation from high school. A lot of people were wearing shorts and a t-shirt under the cap and gown just because they just want, like, after this, I'm leaving, you know, like, seriously, that it's just gotten to be really ridiculous. And I think we're just raising a generation of really rigid thinking folks versus those who are encouraged to be free thinking and open. And when do we stop the divide? So it goes beyond the whole professional dress. It seeps into just our belief system. Wow, this really is a heavy topic today because, it seeps into our belief system.
Yeah, especially when it's happening at third grade and in high school. And like, I know that even though I'm now in my 40s, there's that level of like conservative pressure. That level of conservative pressure that I had growing up is still like a worm in my head that will pop up every once in a while when I'm like deciding on what to wear or how to do my hair or whatever. And it's just like, how is this 20, 30 years later still there? Yeah,
and also I know, I agree, it pops up for me because I come from the generation of you don't dress that way. And so I catch myself, if I even remotely catch myself looking at someone's outfit and about to be like, no dear, that should, I immediately stop myself and just like, you know what, that's really a cool outfit.
It's causing a reaction.
Yeah, you have to, it's like you have to be aware of your ish in order to make changes. And so that's something I'm committed to do. I don't normally tell everyone that that's a struggle for me, no longer, but it used to be. Because it used to, like, we were raised in a generation where women would just overly criticize other women based on what they were wearing, whether they thought they were the size to wear that outfit or not.
Oh, that's a great point. We haven't even talked about, like, weight being deemed unprofessional.
Yes. Oh, did you know there was a study in the early 90s that actually pointed out that people who were overweight did not get promoted because they were deemed unhealthy.
Lazy, unmotivated, their productivity's terrible. They must not be that smart. Like it, which is just like
mind-boggling.
It's gross.
It's gross.
Yeah, but it happens all of the time. There's a great podcast called Maintenance Phase that talks a lot about this type of stuff and just the level of what's it called? Bodyism. That's not it. But discrimination against like, weight and bodies is so ingrained, and people are disguise it as, oh, well, we just want you to be healthy.
Yeah,
like,
that's why I'm a big fan of Lizzo. Lizzo came out and said, just because I'm a big girl doesn't mean I'm not healthy. And bravo. She shows that she does eat healthy. She works out. She's a big girl. She's still doing her business, doing her music. She's not going to conform to what society says she should look like. Because the reality is, what happens? Beyonce is thin, has a kid, put on a few weight. What do they spend time talking about? Oh my gosh, how much weight did she put on? It's always about a criticism. And this is what our young girls and boys and non-binary kids are growing up witnessing. And it's like, when does it become enough? Do we have to continue this cycle of this BS till we get to our 20s, 30s, 40s, and we have an epiphany and start breaking the cycle? But then it continues for the next generation. So I'm a fan of, like, I would like to break all cycles, like generational trauma. Yeah. And that's why I'm with OSTC, because my vision, I agree with you, is like people need to treat people like humans. And if we can start one person at a time, it will filter out. So, yeah, I use my powers for good.
Yeah. And Lizzo is like a huge sex icon, right? Like, she's done an excellent job of not just like, see, I'm healthy, it's okay. It's like, see, I'm a badass person and a full human, and this is the size my body is and wants to be. So.
And she's smart.
Yes.
I loved when a lot of the conservative folks lost their mind when she was invited to play some amazing flute in the, Washington, D.C., whatever, Smithsonian, right? And then they learned that she is a professional flutist. Like, what?
She's amazing. Anyway.
Yeah. This is not a little puzzle, but we should invite her to come talk with us because this would be great. No, but seriously, back to being professional. Like, there was one thing I wanted to mention on here. What should someone do if they're being discriminated against at work? So here's something I learned from someone, and I pass it on. Keep a journal. Keep a journal of what your day is like without being emotional. Like you keep the date, the time. My interaction with Renae today is the usual as it goes. She may be passive aggressive towards me, make a comment in a meeting. You want to just list the incident that happened without being emotional. Because here's the thing, you could take that journal to a lawyer. They can determine if you have a discrimination lawsuit or not. And journals are admissible.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you want to not do it on your company computer. You want it to
good
be
old-fashioned paper and pen. Get a little notebook or on your phone. Your phone is great. You have notes, but back then it was a notebook for me because we didn't have these cool apps yet. And also keep in mind that HR is not there for you. Yeah. HR is there for the employer and to make sure you don't sue. So they're not your friends.
No, which is always sad for people in HR when they realize that that's kind of their role a lot of the time.
And they will try to say, no, I try to be objective. No. There's also Workers' Compensation Board that you can always call and find out what your rights are. Know the laws in your state. But definitely the journaling was the most best advice I ever got, because by the time I was like, at one job I was ready to go, and I sat down with the mediator, their HR, and I represented myself, and I literally just pulled out my journal, and I was like, yeah, this happened 5 times, the same thing that keeps happening in a month. And it was, I forgot what it was, but anyway, they totally backed off. I gave my 2 weeks notice, and they gave me my severance pay, and we had no issues because they realized I had a lawsuit. I was ready to take it there, but I just wanted my severance pay that was owed to me, and then pretty much that's what I did. Yeah. So that's a good advice I got from someone.
Yeah, that's great advice. And like writing down everything, like even if it seems small or you're not quite sure, just write it down, because that stuff adds up. Like this kind of discrimination can be like death of 1,000 paper cuts, and you want to track all of them.
Yeah, I think one of them was, they said I'm always late, so I would write down, I was 5 minutes late today, or I was 10 minutes late, gave the reason why. And I also wrote down my coworkers who were like an hour late or a half hour late, and nothing was ever said to them. So they were like, whoa, can't have different rules for different people. Yeah.
And I know that the LGBT Center offers free consultations for discrimination cases like this. And so if this is happening, they're a great resource to just call and be like, hey, I think this might be a thing. Can you take a look at my journal?
Yeah, and I think the ACLU, I think they sometimes will either have a company they already know has issues. It wouldn't hurt to check with them too.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Also, Google class act lawsuits. Sometimes you never know if your job is being sued because they did wrong by the employees. Like, one job I worked at, the care staff, they had them working overtime and didn't fully pay them their overtime. And there was a class act lawsuit. Let's just say at least 35 people got $1,000 each.
Good for them.
That's how big their class act lawsuit. So you never know.
What about protecting your own mental health while this process? Because journaling and getting all the evidence and putting that together and dealing with this is really tough, and it takes a long time. So how do you take care of your own mental health while this is happening?
For me, it's being proactive on my vacation time, taking time away from the office. It's something to look forward to. If I know that whether it's every 3 months I have a long weekend I can plan, or twice a year I had that long vacation, that's something to look forward to. But at the end of the day, I think I've always ended my day with music. So something that makes you feel good. Hanging out with friends, having people you can vent to. Lately it's been, we send memes and videos, like just to be like, find the sarcasm of work and the absurdity of the BS that you have to deal with. But in the long run, if it gets to a point where you are struggling to get out of bed to go to work, I think those are all signs that you might need to like really think about, is this a place for you? No one likes to look for work, but it might mean that's what you need to do. I always subscribe to my mom's phrase, peace of mind pays more. And so I know I'm hireable and I'm willing to work different jobs. So if this place isn't doing me well mentally, it's time for me to go.
Yeah, you don't have to stick around just because there's a case to be made. It's not your role or responsibility to make that emotional sacrifice.
I mean, yes, sometimes you just have to chalk it up to, hey, this place was dysfunctional and toxic before I got here, and it will be after I leave here. Why am I going to sacrifice my mental wellness to make them do something that clearly they've gotten away with? Sometimes you just have to make that decision of, I need to protect me. I'm not a martyr for all these other people who've been working here and haven't done anything.
Yeah, which can be really hard if there's a group of people that you're working with that you like that are also experiencing it but have gotten stuck in that role and in that dynamic.
It's not your responsibility to fix the issue for everyone else, unless you decide to be an activist. And if that's your calling, then by all means, figure out how you can do that. But if it means like protecting your own mental health, preserving your own energy, it's nothing wrong with walking away.
Quitting is always a great option.
Quitting is not quitting. It's called survival.
There are situations where sometimes you can't leave. You know, if it's a financial need or you're having a hard time finding another job or whatever it is. And like having hopefully you can find at least one ally at work that you can talk to about it and like that can help validate what's happening, because this also goes in with like a lot of gaslighting. And can get really confusing. And I don't mean to make this the Debbie show of examples, but I had that experience when I moved here. I literally had this one coworker that was, I had two. They were super supportive. And I remember there were days where I would cry in my car before I had to go in because I didn't want to be there because it was so toxic. But I do love what I do, and I had put all of it as I really enjoy the patients. Yes, the coworkers, a lot of them are toxic, but you're really here for the patients, not them. And like I said, I found different ways. But yes, it does help to have a coworker or two that they can relate, and we support each other, and we all eventually left. So it was good that it wasn't people that were complacent or stuck. It was, hey, I'm in the same boat too, but I have to make calculated risks because either one kid is in college, one is about to go to college, or I have a sick mom, I'm her caretaker,
And this job, I've been here for so long that they do work with my schedule. Like, I get that. I was there to get my hours. So we all had a reasons to stick it out. But we had a moment where we could leave. Adios, amigo. So, yeah.
Let's talk about the Crown Act, which stands for, and I need to read this, creating a respectful and open world for natural hair, which is fantastic and has not been around for super long.
No, and it is fantastic. In California, excuse me, let's try that again. It is fantastic. And California is one of the first states, thanks to our amazing marketing person giving us that info, to adopt this. It's great. It's not perfect. It's kind of sickening to know that we have to have this for people to feel free to wear their hair the way they want to. However, I do know that they have beauty schools that still resist in having their beauticians learn natural hair.
I wish that was surprising.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how ingrained this gets and how it continues just to show up all over the place.
And it always is linked to human belief system. So if I own a beauty school and I'm not Black and I don't know anything about Black hair, so I'm going to continue to teach my curriculum, as this person said when they got caught on a hidden camera. I'm going to teach my curriculum. How dare you come in here and try to change my curriculum? She didn't even want to learn to add to her curriculum. She said she's not going to change her curriculum unless she's forced to. So yes, we have the Crown Act, but you still have some businesses they're not going to change their policy unless they're outed and forced to. Yeah. So, yeah.
But there are, just to end on a somewhat positive note, there are a lot of companies out there that won't do this, that will let you show up with natural hair and pink hair and tattoos and
absolutely. Like I said, it's all about you doing your research and figuring out where you want to be. Because if you feel like, oh, I can never work in a place that is so rigid in their belief system or too tight with rules, then that's not the place for me. You want to find a job that has a certain culture that you can work with, right? So yes, I'm not going to dog the Crown Act. I love the fact that it's here. It's sad that it took how many years for it to get here, but it's here. So now this protects kids in schools that parents can now push back on. And I think it was primarily started because of two young ladies, I think in Philadelphia, the sisters, that were told they couldn't wear their hair in braids. So it started from an incident there, and another kid in Jersey, wrestler, who literally, they cut his locks before he could wrestle, which is so, like, he did it because he represents his school and his team, but you can see on his face how that was just hurting his soul. So yes, I am a lover of the Crown Act, and I feel like it'll get to a point where it'll be a minimum of places that don't do it, and they'll eventually change because the majority love rules, and humankind is going to prevail over haters. Yeah.
Haters gotta go.
They gotta go. There's no room for that. We need love. Love and acceptance.
Well, thank you so much. This is a heavy and tough topic, but I really appreciate you.
We'll probably touch upon it again because I'm sure there'll be something that'll come up that will mention it. But a belief system, it all goes back to that, right? Yeah.
Which maybe we should have a whole podcast about beliefs.
It's a series.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We'd love to hear if you've had any experiences with this at your workplace or in your school. If you have any questions about what would qualify under discriminations, or you want to reach out for help, please reach out to us. You can find us on all of the social medias at Open Space Therapy Collective, and always email us at info@openspacetherapycollective.com.
And let us know if you are okay with us sharing your story, because we would love to make this like a norm conversation, and so people know they're not alone. So,
Great.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Leave a comment below or email us at communications@openspace-therapy-collective. You can follow us on all of the social medias, and if you're in California looking for a therapist, visit our website at openspacetherapycollective.com and book a free intro call with one of our therapists to see if we are the right fit for you. My Therapist is Out is an Open Space Therapy Collective podcast. Our therapists are Kristen Crow, Debbie Whyte, and Renae Johnson. Clinical consultant, Jenny Nigro. Communications coordinator, Riley Andreessen. Marketing consultant, M. Isa Messaging. Administrative assistant, Ritza Ruiz. And our podcast editing is done by Smash and Grab Studio.